Hey, buds. Welcome to the Fantasy Buds podcast. It's your host, Brian Gold.
Mark Letrio.
And I'm Tim Stewart.
And if you want to follow us on social media, you can go to the link tree in the description below and follow us on Threads, TikTok, and Instagram. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoy the show. We are going to go in 3, 2, 1. Hold on. Girls. No. These are my dogs, Libby and Lucy. Girls. I gotta do this right here. Just sit. Hi. We are the Fantasy Buds podcast. Welcome back. It is episode 2 of season 2. Libby, say hello. Hi, girl. You gotta calm down. You gotta relax.
We're trying to get the dogs involved today.
They're just a little excited the cameras are around.
So far, it is.
But anyway,
going great.
It is July 25th, 2023. And today we are going to be talking about our fantasy MVPs from 2022 and our 2023 MVPs. Do you gentlemen want to start real quick? Because I know Mark's was utter dog shit.
Oh, God.
The dogs are just running around right now.
Speaking of dog things, my MVP from last year. What the fuck was I thinking?
I don't know.
I was about to say, what compelled you?
Elijah Moore.
Ew.
No wonder why I've never won the championship in this league. The dogs agree.
Don't let them distract you.
The dogs,
See,
I mean, like, they
just-
agree.
They're not fighting. They're roughhousing. They're playing grab ass. Really? I'm 2 seconds from getting up and putting you in the other room. Like, they have to do this, like, right here. Leave it fucking rolling. Leave it rolling. Girls, let's go. Come on. Let's go. Come on.
So while Brian escorts the dogs out, Saquon Barkley is coming back.
Yeah, they
for 1 year.
What, 11 million, right?
1 year, $11 million.
We're going outside.
Are you taking him in the first round?
Oh, I do have the 11th pick. I might have to. It really depends on who's out there.
Would you take him in the first round?
Not with like a top 6 or 7 pick. I think anywhere from like 8 and beyond, I think you can't go wrong.
Holy shit. Okay, we can continue the episode.
We got that under control.
Yeah, they're outside. They can run around now. They just got the zoomies out of nowhere. All right. So Elijah Moore.
Dog shit.
Dog shit.
Basically, that's like the synopsis. So my whole reasoning behind, and we like briefly kind of talked about this before the show. My whole reasoning behind Elijah Moore was kind of bullshit. It was just kind of based off four games from the previous season.
The J.K. Dobbins treatment.
Exactly. Basically, like the Devin Singletary, like 4 or 5 games at the end of the year. Like
They just get hot for no reason.
they get hot. Yep. Even though Elijah Moore, he had the nice stretch and then he got hurt, and then came back and was never really the same after that. But that was kind of my whole reasoning. I mean, he's a young receiver. He could have broke out. He was a decently high draft pick, 2nd rounder, I believe, in the real draft. So, I mean, like, he's a talented player, just didn't get it done last year.
He was a mid-round pick kind of guy.
Yeah,
so
like, he was already a mid-round pick. He just wasn't obviously MVP caliber. Yeah. I think he'll be all right this year.
I think it's because you picked him.
Probably,
everything you touch dies.
It really does, and I'm sure my MVP this year will die also. So
Probably.
But we'll get into that.
We will.
And my MVP was Jalen Hurts, who was the QB3 last year, but he was the QB1 until week 15. He had QB1 finishes in 12 out of 15 games. And he was the QB1 for 8 straight weeks for a stretch of the season. And he's the first QB in NFL history to have back-to-back years of 10-plus rushing touchdowns. Michael Vick never did that. Cam Newton never did that. Jalen Hurts, my 2022 fantasy MVP.
I could tell saying all that made you really, really happy.
Yeah, put that in your juice box and suck it.
Brian has been talking about how he called that shit for the past.
I mean, he won me. He put me in position to win the championship. Like, he was the guy.
And, we do get to watch him every week.
And it was always like, how much is he going to improve as a passer and everything?
Yeah.
And he wasn't really great of a passer in 2021 and all this bullshit. Like, he's going to regress in the rushing game. Nope.
Yeah.
And he's going to
MVP.
be a high pick for years to come in fantasy
Yeah.
for sure.
Now I'm not going to touch him. But
Yeah.
I was glad I caught that lightning in a bottle for one of my takes. But, Tim, I'm curious about your MVP for
Justin
2022.
Jefferson. Sky's blue.
Sky's blue.
No, the grass
that
is green.
He finished
But-
as a wide receiver
one.
one.
Like, literally one.
Like,
Yeah,
like,
Tyreek Hill was two. That's why I keep getting those confused that
Nah.
they keep finishing. Because
Yeah.
Tyreek Hill had that span of where he was snapping, but he was 8th in touchdowns. Only had 7 drops last year. Wild.
On like 180 targets or
That's
something like
not that bad
yeah.
at all.
Pretty fucking good.
Yeah, 1,800 yards.
Really fucking good.
Yeah, you can't go wrong.
Could go
And I
for
believe he had
2,000 this year.
100. If I remember correctly, yeah, he had 128 receptions and 184 targets. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean,
volume's there. So
we were kind of like, that's a crazy pick for Justin Jefferson, number 1 last year. And finishes the 1 wide receiver, so you couldn't have gone wrong with that. Picked first overall and the player finishes first. Like, that's really
yeah, draft Justin Jefferson, guys.
just
there was another.
don't even think about
There
it.
was another crazy stat too that I saw that's actually pulled up here apparently because this website's crazy. He was 50-50 for contested catches last year. Like right down the middle. 50-50.
Dude, I still can't stop thinking about that catch he had against the Bills last year.
He was crazy, dude.
Dude, and people forget about Stephon Diggs, his catch in that game. They both had one-handed catches.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
and
it's-
it's like nobody gives a fuck
Because of
about
that.
Stephon Diggs. Fuck him.
There.
Whatever.
I mean, Jefferson averaged like 12 targets a game last year.
Yeah, he had 176 targets, 128 receptions, 1,800 yards, and 8 touch. He was first in every category except for touchdowns.
Yep.
He had a 90.5 receiving grade.
Just
Like,
if you have the
just-
first pick, don't even think about it.
just
Just draft.
The new Antonio Brown.
Yep, just slam it.
Just slam it. Tim was right again.
Congratulations. Tim.
Congratulations.
Is that what you want to hear?
I'm
Tim?
only good with wide receivers, dude. I'm not good with running backs. I don't know what it is. I'm horrible at running backs, but I'm like the wide receiver guru. It makes no sense.
Damn, I should have picked my fantasy MVP as
Don't
Saquon
get-
Barkley.
So-
running backs, dog.
Those were our 2022 fantasy MVPs, and I think we should dive in more to our 2023 fantasy MVPs.
Which ones will be dog shit and which ones will be good?
I mean,
Let us know, Tiny.
I'm gonna start off with my guy, and it's a little spicy, but this is a player I've been watching for years that I've had on my dynasty team, and this is a guy who's gonna fill in for a player that a team was perfectly comfortable releasing, and this was a player that was the best at his position for a period of time. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm talking about Alexander Mattison of the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings were very comfortable letting Dalvin Cook get out of there, and they were comfortable signing Alexander Mattison to a 2-year deal. Now, the reason I am picking him as a fantasy MVP because he's going in the 6th round, which I think, for me personally, I always go wide receiver heavy early. I think he's a guy that's going to be in the middle rounds that could have a Josh Jacobs type season. Whereas he was kind of an ugly name, like you were kind of like, ugh. You put him on the board, you put him on the board, and people start laughing at you. But then when he's the running back 3, nobody's fucking laughing anymore.
Yeah.
Now, the reason I'm picking this player and I'm very high on him was because I had both him, Dalvin Cook, and Alexander Mattison on my dynasty roster. And I was personally always comfortable going into the year not upgrading in the running back position because I thought if Dalvin Cook were to go out, I'm not going to skip a beat because Alexander Madison's going to fill the role. And every time he has gotten the chance, he has performed at an RB1 level.
Yeah.
So for 2020, this is a very small sample size of everything. I will state that first. However, it is a sample. 2020 in week 5 versus Seattle, he had, and this is when Alexander Madison gets at least 50% or more of the snaps. I went back and looked at his game logs. In week 5 versus Seattle, he had 50%, 20 carries, 112 yards, 5.6 yards a carry. He had 3 targets, 3 catches, 24 yards, 17 fantasy points. Week 17 versus Detroit, he had 62% of the snaps. He had 21 carries for 95 yards and a touchdown. That's 4.5 a carry. He had 3 targets, 3 catches, 50 yards and a touchdown. He had 29 fantasy points that week. Now you go over into 2021, week 3 versus Seattle, 68%, 26 carries, 112 yards, 4.3 a carry, 8 targets, 6 catches, 59 yards, 23 fantasy points. Week 5, he had 66% of the snaps, 25 carries, 113 yards, 7 targets, 7 catches, 40 yards and a touchdown, 25 fantasy points. Week 13 versus Detroit, he had 86% of the snaps, 22 carries, 90 yards and a touchdown, and he had 3 catches for 34 yards, 21 fantasy points. And then week 16 against the LA Rams, he had 75% of the snaps. Not his great game, not his best game, 13 carries, 41 yards, and a touchdown. But however, he still had 4 targets, 3 catches, and 29 yards. That's 16 fantasy points. So every time he has stepped into the role of Dalvin Cook, that every down role, which is what he has stated out on Matt Harmon's podcast, that he is there. He didn't sign to Minnesota for a 2-year, $7 million deal to be a backup. He is expecting an every down role, and there's no competition at all. His backups are Kene. I'm not even going to pronounce his name. Wu. He is a 7th round pick.
Yeah.
Or he might have been a 5th round pick, and then Tyson
Dwayne
Chandler,
McBride, right?
These guys are 5th round picks. They're undrafted free agents. He is the guy in Minnesota. Now, when you take that small sample size that I read off, that's a total of 6 games, right? Almost half a season. That totals out to 127 carries. That's an average of 21.16 a game. 563 rushing yards, an average of 93.83 a game. 28 targets, 25 receptions, 236 receiving yards, and 5 total touchdowns over a 6-game span. Now, if you take those averages and you put it into a 17-game pace, and that's not factoring out bad games and missed time or whatever it may be, he averages out to 359 carries, 1,595 yards, 78 targets, 69 receptions, 669 yards, and 14 total touchdowns.
That's a first-round player.
That's an
100%
RB1
player. Yeah, absolutely.
Now, I would say it's probably crazy to predict that stat line for him, but when he plays and he gets the snaps, that's the kind of production he's been putting out there.
Yeah.
He had a rushing grade of 84.2 in 2022. He has survived both coaching staffs, Mike Zimmer and Kevin O'Connell, and they had no problem bringing him in and signing him to that deal. That's more investment than Saquon Barkley was getting from the Giants, more investment than Josh Jacobs was getting from the Raiders. And those are players that are touted way higher than him. His ADP is in the 6th round. And players that are going in his range are James Conner, Cam Akers, and Rachaad White, who I think the Minnesota Vikings are going to be a top offense this year. And a way better offense than the fucking Cardinals, than the fucking Rams.
Yep.
I mean, I don't think the Rams have any semblance of an offensive line, or I think they peaked in 2021 when they bought their credit card team. And that's what happened. And then Rachaad White, he's not proven at all. And I know Alexander Madison isn't, but what are the fucking Buccaneers what are they gonna do? Their offensive line is on the down. They have Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
And then players that are going ahead of him, J.K. Dobbins, DeAndre Swift, Jahmyr Gibbs, Damian Pierce, Najee Harris. Those are guys that are way more expensive than Alexander Madison. I think Alexander Madison is going to be on a better offense than those teams. And I think he's going to get more opportunity than those guys. I think he's going to pay off more than those guys. The Vikings were 7th in points scored, and they were 5th in offense. They won the division in 2022. Aaron Rodgers is gone in Green Bay. And how much are the Lions and Bears going to really improve? This was a 13-win team last year, like it or not. So they're going to be winning a lot of these games, and they're going to need to rely on the run game. Alexander Madison's going to be there. And not only to top that off, their offensive line, tackle Christian Derishaw had a 90.6 run blocking. That's ranked second in tackles, second out of 81. Tackle Brian O'Neill, he had an 82.4 run blocking rank, and that's 8th out of 81 tackles. Guard Ezra Cleveland, he had 79.7 run blocking rank from, and this is all from Pro Football Focus. That was 8th of 77 guards. And then center Garrett Bradbury, he had a 70.5 grade, and he was ranked 11th out of 36 centers. So he's got the offensive line, he's got the quarterback, he's got Justin Jefferson, he's got the opportunity, he's got the money, and he's got the coaching staff that can get it done. Alexander Madison, my 2023 fantasy MVP.
Honestly, I'm very impressed.
Good.
That was like a school project that you put together.
It was
like a presentation. I honestly, just to throw some, I honestly agree with everything you said, to tell you the truth. Slam the draft button on Alexander Madison in 2023. Yeah. I'm definitely in. Also, maybe not as much as Brian, but I'm definitely in.
If he goes higher than where his average draft position is, then it's not so much an MVP for me, because I'm viewing him as an MVP because he's the RB25. You take the RB25 and he could end up as the RB5. That's going to be an MVP for your team.
I think there's about a fucking 80% chance he finishes higher than the RB25.
I think there's a 95% chance.
Like, I mean, as long as
he's
he plays,
healthy,
right, at least, I don't know, 14, 15 games.
And I would be surprised if Tyson Chandler and fucking
Dwayne McBride
and Keeney, and like it or not, Alexander Madison is the same height and weight as Dalvin Cook.
Yeah.
When they were both out there, I had a hard time deciphering who was who.
I remember when I had Dalvin Cook a couple years ago, I would think that they were the same exact person.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
But enough about mine. Why don't we talk about your guys' fantasy MVPs?
Do you want to go next, T-Bone?
Yep, sure. And this is completely off topic, but we'll talk about this later. Dean apparently just sent me another trade in Dynasty, so we'll
Jesus fucking
see what
Christ.
that is later. But
Don't take it.
I'm probably not going to. It's probably dog water. No, so my fantasy MVP for this year isn't too much of a reach. I'm going with Garrett Wilson. The only reason I'm going with Garrett Wilson is because first year last year, 83 receptions, not too bad, 1,100 yards, was lacking on the TD department. The issue is on first down, a lot of his targets were on the first down mark, which isn't too bad. Now he has Aaron Rodgers. He had me throwing to him last year, and he still broke 1,000 yards. Doesn't have too much in the over 40-yard reception category. He only had 3 receptions over 40-plus yards, 13 receptions for 20-plus yards. So he is kind of like a small ball receiver. Is averaging 13 yards per reception right now. Longest reception last year was a 60-yard touchdown, I think it was. But not too bad. Only 12 of the games out of the 17, he was actually listed as a starter. And he still had 83 receptions. Throughout the games for the first part of the season, he was averaging a pretty good amount of targets. He didn't do too bad. Week 1, he had 4 targets. Week 2, he had 8, 6, 2, 3. So it was kind of going all over the place. But more towards the end of the year, he started getting more and more solid looks. And he started playing a lot better. This was also with him not having a steady quarterback. They went from Mike White to Zach Wilson to you to Mark to me. So
Pretty sure Joe Flacco.
Yeah, like
for
it was a
them.
whole thing. And now he
Audubon
has
great.
Yep. And now he has Aaron Rodgers at quarterback. Aaron Rodgers had a down year last year compared to what he normally does, but let's be honest, it looked like he did not want to be in Green Bay.
I don't think he gave a fuck about Green Bay
he did
anymore.
not
Not at
care.
all.
He wanted out. He was done, over. He's where he wants to be now. I was already in on Garrett Wilson for this year the second I heard they got Rodgers, and then Devontae Adams came out and said that what Devontae Adams said. So now I'm really all in. So he's definitely my MVP this year. 100%. And he's wearing 17. So for all we know, Rodgers might think he's throwing to Adams, which makes it even better. So
That's got to be like that's such a high compliment of like, just because this guy said it.
Devontae Adams said so.
But it is Devontae
It's
Adams.
a fucking draft. Garrett Wilson.
Devontae Adams was his number one wide receiver for how many years?
You think he's throwing like, he's like jinxing him because he misses Aaron Rodgers? He's got Jimmy Garoppolo.
I don't know. Devontae Adams
dude.
went off.
Did you see the catch that they had in practice the other day?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Garrett Wilson?
He looks like a number one wide receiver. However, I'm gonna have to disagree with you.
Wow.
Because the number one's obviously Alan Lazard. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I'm just fucking kidding.
I completely forgot he went there, actually.
But I do think in terms of where he's usually been around in the second round.
Yeah.
So I think
Mid-second round, I think, is his.
I think that's
his
fair.
ADP is
I think
around
that
that
he's a
area.
guy that's going to finish in the top 5 without question. It's just the only thing that that concerns me is Aaron Rodgers cooked. Like, was that really not him not caring, or was it?
Is he old? Like, is he done?
What?
What's wrong, man?
I just saw Chris point to something over here.
Should we let the dogs in?
Yes.
We do not
You
condone.
completely forgot about them, didn't you? I actually want to see while we're doing this. I
forgot
actually want
about
to see what Dean traded me. I gotta.
We do not condone animal abuse here on the Fantasy Buds podcast.
Dean.
Dean probably sent you some dog shit. Oh, the dogs are back. The dogs have returned.
You sent me Odell Beckham and a 4th round pick for Brandon Ayuk.
That's dog shit.
What? No. Good Lord.
So Garrett Wilson, Sims MVP. I love Garrett Wilson. I would draft Garrett Wilson.
Yeah.
Guys, slam the draft button. I remember ever since the end of last year, I remember Brian and I were talking about, I was like, I'm going to be all over Garrett Wilson next year in fantasy. Like
he's going to be that second round receiver that you take, and he's just going to skyrocket into.
You know, the more I think about it, though, that trade that me and you made last year worked out for both of us in a lot of ways.
Well, yeah, it got shit on completely.
Yeah.
I got Jalen Hurts, but you got
Ramondre Stevenson,
And
Garrett Wilson. Yeah.
But they weren't, because at the time I was like 1-3 around
Yeah.
that.
I think
And-
I was I think we were both 1-3, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we both made the trade because we were like, the hell with it. We got to come up with something. And then I would have made playoffs, but, you know, Sauce Gardner decided to just lock down Justin Jefferson.
Yeah. I mean, maybe if Justin Jefferson wasn't so
dog shit.
dog shit. But no, I'm completely in on Garrett Wilson this year. I just hope it doesn't, like, Aaron Rodgers is not like, I don't want to see a Russell Wilson situation in Denver. That's what I
honestly don't think you're going to.
I don't think so, but
Because, I mean, if you remember, even when they were doing the offseason stuff, people were saying, okay, Russell Wilson looks like dog shit.
I don't remember that.
Did
Yeah,
they?
there was some things that were coming out that were saying, like, he's missing wide open throws, all this, all that. I mean, we saw on the one clip, granted, it's just one clip, but when they were doing the red zone drill, when Rodgers threw it to Garrett Wilson, he was running. Like, it was a mid-run throw. And he looks like he did when he was actually enjoying the game. On the run, hitting a dude on a dime, all that stuff. So, hey, fingers crossed. I'm hoping. He's my MVP this year, so I certainly hope.
I think you're going to see Garrett Wilson on a lot of playoff teams.
I think he can finish as a
I
top 5
think
wide
so
receiver in
also.
fantasy this year.
I completely agree.
I
with you.
don't know if he can hit. He might be able to hit the top 3, but that's tough because you're Justin Jefferson, Cooper Kupp.
I
Like,
can see him getting to the
that's-
1,400-yard mark this year.
Well, he had 1,100.
sure.
He had 1,100 yards
mean,
last year. I can
last
see him
year-
having 100 receptions, 1,400 yards, maybe like 8 touchdowns.
He had 83 catches, 1,100 yards,
Yeah,
and 4 touchdowns.
touchdowns.
And I think the Jets' offense with Aaron Rodgers, barring that he's not cooked, well, I think they'll score way more than I think the Jets were damn near dead last in scoring. I mean, I saw them losing some games. Like, they could have easily won if they just had a quarterback.
Well, that's the
like-
thing. That's what I'm saying. Like the Jets, and not to get off topic, but I think you do actually got to watch out for them this year because their O-line has improved. Aaron Rodgers basically has the best defense he's probably had throughout his entire career.
Yeah.
And if he plays like normal Aaron Rodgers, even if you get Aaron Rodgers in like the 10th round or something, because that's his ADP's fallen because of his fall off last year, he could be another one who could be a fantasy MVP. For all you know, if he plays like he did in his prime, throwing 35 plus touchdowns, almost no interceptions,
just to lose
that's
in the
crazy.
AFC Championship.
100%, absolutely.
Yep.
But Garrett Wilson did have an 85.9 receiving grade last year as a rookie. He won Rookie of the Year.
Which is pretty amazing.
I think he's gonna.
I feel bad though, because it feels like the guys that I go for, like if they win, like if I'm right, sky's blue. The guys that you guys are going for are like complete and total.
I mean,
like Alexander Madison is either going to finish as like a top 5 RB.
if you go with
or
Garrett
he just
Wilson as
doesn't
your
exist.
wide receiver 1, that's still a risk.
That's true.
That's
'cause he
pretty
could
bold
just-
saying that, I think.
He could
Like-
just
like
absolutely fold.
If you went like let's say Christian McCaffrey in the first round, you went and got Garrett Wilson in the second. I mean, that could be a risky combo, a risky pick to have that guy. Now, Garrett Wilson as my wide receiver 2.
Yeah, if you go receiver in the first round,
Like just fucking
give me that
Spice.
all day.
like
Well,
if
I can-
I'm picking at the end of the first round, I'm gonna go with like Diggs and Garrett Wilson stack, or like a
It's-
Lamb and Wilson.
That's what
I
I'm doing
think.
in our league because I have 11. Like I'm telling you right now, I am taking Garrett Wilson in the second round.
Just announce to
I
our
tell
Tell
fucking
the whole
league
world your draft
your
pick.
whole plan.
There's only one person who can take him in the second round. It's Big Joe, and Big Joe's not going to do that.
Not taking him in
So-
the first round.
Big Joe's definitely not
Please take him in
listening
the
to
first
this
round.
either.
Please take him with the first. What's your first pick?
I think Garrett Wilson will be a guy next year we're talking about. He's going in the first round.
So
Yeah,
why don't we move
honestly.
on to your MVP more?
Okay, so I know.
Can't wait to hear this.
So that's what I'm going to say first. Just hear me out. This player has not played football in a year. But the reason why this
Over a year.
But the reason why this player has missed a year was not due to injury, was not due to PEDs, was not due to any physical limitations. It was due to gambling. I, of course, am talking about Calvin Ridley, the wide receiver of the Jacksonville Jaguars. And now the reason why I'm so high on Calvin Ridley is because 2020 was not that long ago. The last time Calvin Ridley played a full season was 2020. Julio Jones missed 9 games in 2020. Obviously, Calvin Ridley was playing behind Julio Jones his first couple years in Atlanta. You know, honestly looked pretty damn good playing next to him. But there was kind of always that question, could he play without Julio Jones? Could he kind of go off as the number 1 receiver? And I'll tell you what, Julio Jones missed 9 games in 2020. Julio had a banged up, injury-riddled season. And Calvin Ridley kind of had his chance to take over as the number 1 receiver that year. That season, he played 15 games. Like I said, 9 of them Julio did not play. 90 catches off of 137 targets. 1,374 yards, which was 4th in the NFL that season. 9 touchdowns, which was tied for 8th in the NFL that season. 137 targets, that was 7th in the NFL. 90 catches, that was tied for 11th in the NFL. And like I said, he only technically started as the number 1 for 9 games. He was playing opposite Julio Jones the rest of that time. Now, 2021, you know, he was a little disappointing. You know, obviously he had the thing about the mental health came out. He was banged up at a couple injuries early in the season. He only played 5 games, 31 catches, 281 yards, 2 touchdowns. Not good. Not great, right?
Not great, but it's also not terrible.
Actually,
That's pretty
it's
dog.
pretty dog shit.
Yeah.
But you know what, though?
What is it, girl? That's a laptop.
Look, I don't know
She
what
started
Calvin...
barking because she realized how dog his take is. That's why.
Yeah,
I didn't even finish yet. So
Go on.
Calvin Ridley, you know, obviously the stuff about the mental health came out. Mental health can really fuck with you. It can really degrade somebody. Honestly,
Yes.
I don't want to totally make it an excuse as to why he was playing bad, but honestly, that combined with physical injuries and, you know, I think they can take its toll on somebody.
Dude, I don't know.
I think Calvin Ridley has the talent. He was a first-round pick, an Alabama player. Alabama wide receivers are fucking awesome. We have Jalen Waddle. We have Devontae Smith. With Calvin Ridley now. We have amazing Alabama receivers. His ADP is the 4th to 6th round. Now, his ADP is jumping all over the place. In mock drafts, I've seen him go as high as the 3rd round and as late as the 6th round. In the 3rd round, I do not like Calvin Ridley. Any pick after that round, I think he is a huge value. I think he could finish as a wide receiver 1. He has done it before. He's playing alongside another great wide receiver in Christian Kirk, who also is playing with Trevor Lawrence, the best quarterback I would argue Calvin Ridley's ever had. I would argue he was better than Matt Ryan, Trevor Lawrence. And Christian Kirk, in his 5-year career, had the best season he's ever had with Trevor Lawrence last year. He had 1,100 yards receiving and 8 touchdowns. So Calvin Ridley is a better wide receiver than Christian Kirk. Calvin Ridley in 2020 had an 84.9 PFF grade, the year he, his best year. That's pretty damn good. Christian Kirk this year had a 74.2 PFF grade. And most people would tell you Christian Kirk was awesome this year with Trevor Lawrence. Yeah. I think Calvin Ridley is going to establish himself. There's already reports coming out. He's dominating. He's separating himself as their number 1 receiver in camp. I think Calvin Ridley, if you get him in the middle rounds of your draft, he is going to go off for you. I think he has the chance to finish in the top 5 to 7 receivers. I think he's going around right now. I want to say the wide receiver, I don't know exactly, but I want to say he's going in the 20s right now. The teens to 20s. Yeah. I think there's a huge chance he finishes higher than that, at least in the top 12. I mean, I don't even think there's a risk unless he misses games, to be honest. Like, I think he's that good. I think he's playing with Trevor Lawrence on a great offense with a great coach and Doug Peterson. I think Calvin Ridley is primed. They traded for him. They invested in him. Yeah. I think he is primed to have a huge season this year. I love Calvin Ridley this year.
I'm going to disagree.
I am also going to disagree
because the reason for that, you mentioned earlier that, like, you talk about his 2020 season. Well, he hasn't played a single snap since October, November of 2021.
Yeah, I think.
And he missed an entire season. He's going to an offense with Christian Kirk was already there, and I'm not saying Christian Kirk is better. However, there's already a rapport with Trevor Lawrence. There's already like how much do you think Trevor Lawrence is going to target him each game? I just don't see, because he's only done it once in his career, and that was 2020.
Yeah,
and that's about 3 years ago now. Yeah. So I don't see it. His draft price isn't too high, but I think the hype around him is getting a little too high. So I'm going to disagree with you.
Yeah, but I want to put a disclaimer. If his ADP jumps into the 3rd round, I don't like it anymore. If it stays around, like if he's in like the middle of the 4th round in that range after, because some guys going I like him over Terry McLaurin. That's a guy I've seen going ahead of him. Yeah. T. Higgins, to be honest. You
like him over T. Higgins?
This season, I think that I do. I think his upside is higher.
Oh. Man.
All right. So
I think his upside is better this year.
We're gonna call time on that one. To go off of what Brian said, so I actually agree with you and disagree with you. I agree with you with the whole, for people who have never experienced any type of like mental health issue with like anxiety or anything like that, it really does mess you up. And especially in a high concentration sport like the NFL, to where you have to be able to concentrate, it makes sense that when he was going through that stuff, he had a very down year. I mean, how many times do we go out? When we did flag football, we would be running routes and stuff, and we were perfectly fine, and we were dropping catches. And that was with nobody on us, pretty much.
Yeah.
And then you put mental issues on top of it into the NFL, it makes sense that he would kind of have a down year. As for the whole entire take that you just had, you were fine up until that last part. No.
Which part was that?
That he would take him over T. Higgins.
No, I mean,
That's
like,
just ridiculous.
I
At
mean,
this
like,
point,
All right,
the
I'm going to
Keenan
list off
Allen
some names.
goes
the
over him,
disrespect to
like-
T. Higgins. Well, hang on, because here's the thing. I actually think, will Calvin Ridley do okay? Yes. But I think Christian Kirk is going to wind up, when it's all said and done this year, finishing as the better wide receiver, because I think it's going to now be a T. Higgins and Jamar Chase type thing, where Calvin Ridley is going to be the go deep wide receiver, and Christian Kirk is going to be the nitty gritty.
Yeah, I just
Dig and
think
dunk kinda guy.
you're going to kind of be throwing dart throws at Christian Kirk and Calvin Ridley each week.
Yeah.
And Christian Kirk is being completely forgotten about. And people are forgetting the season he had last year with Trevor Lawrence. And
Yeah.
this is now a second full year with Trevor Lawrence. And Calvin Ridley is now getting on the field again for the first time since in well over a calendar year. So, and it wasn't an injury. So how much was he working out? How much was he working on his mentals and everything? I just want to list off some names, and you tell me if you want Calvin Ridley or this said player.
Okay.
So T. Higgins versus Calvin Ridley. You're
T.
going
Higgins.
Calvin.
All right, look, I'm going Calvin Ridley, but it's like this.
I
Okay.
really don't
I like
think it's
T.
like
Higgins.
that.
I'm not like trying to say like I think T. Higgins is amazing. I would draft T. Higgins all day in every fucking league. I like T.
I think it's a lot harder because
I
of him
just-
not playing for that year.
I just really think Calvin Ridley has the talent. And it's like teams have proven you can have two great wide receivers now.
True.
And fantasy football has also proven it. I mean, look at Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown last year. Look at T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, Keenan Allen and Mike Williams when they both
That is, I
play.
do agree with that.
True.
And
Yeah,
I do
like
agree with
I
that.
think they can both be great. But I think Calvin Ridley will be, and I'm not saying he's Jamar Chase. He will be
A wide receiver one for the Jacksonville.
he will be the
Jaguars.
wide receiver one, and Christian Kirk will be the wide. Now, I think they can both finish with over 1,000 yards this season. I think Trevor Lawrence is good enough to do that.
So Devonta
Sorry,
Smith
get back
or
to what we
Calvin
were doing.
Ridley?
Yes, I'm
Devonta
sorry.
Smith.
I'm gonna say Calvin Ridley, and only because he's a wide receiver one on his team, and Devontae Smith is the wide receiver
I should
two.
just
on
go
his
Chris
with
team.
the
Olave or
set.
Calvin Ridley?
Chris Olave.
Chris Olave.
Okay, I'm going to go a little lower. DK Metcalf or Calvin Ridley?
Calvin Ridley.
Don't hurt yourself, Tim.
Oh, no, that's tough. Geno Smith is still the quarterback, right?
Yeah.
DK Metcalf.
Okay. Amari Cooper, Calvin Ridley.
Amari Cooper.
Calvin Ridley.
And now DeAndre Hopkins on the Tennessee Titans or Calvin
There is
Ridley.
only one right answer to this, and I swear to God, if you don't say it, I'm walking off this set.
You really want 31-year-old DeAndre Hopkins on Tennessee over a younger receiver? Where receivers go to die? I mean, like the Titans?
Hi. This episode is getting off the rails.
Like the Titans? I didn't think Calvin Ridley would be like this spicy, like this bad.
I think
Like-
it's spicy, man.
Like I didn't think. Like I mean,
Okay.
look, like I get it. He missed a year, but like it wasn't like with an injury or like with Mike Thomas, with like whatever the fuck.
but it's like the same argument
Like,
as
Dog, you're
as
talking
J.K.
about
Dobbins.
you're
and-
talking
and-
about a wide receiver where Hopkins didn't play for 6 games last year and came back and was on pace to finish as a top 5 wide receiver. And now you're trying to say that you would rather have a dude who
I
has
didn't
not
even give an
played in
answer
a year
yet.
and a half.
I didn't even give an answer yet.
But off of what you just said says you're going to take Calvin Ridley.
I didn't even give an answer yet.
All right.
But it's Calvin Ridley.
Okay. Calvin Ridley, Terry McLaurin.
I already said that one.
You would have Calvin Ridley over that?
I would also take Calvin
I
Ridley.
think
over
Terry
Terry
McLaurin,
I
you
would
just
take
know
Calvin
what you're
Ridley.
getting
Yeah.
pretty much every
All right.
season.
And over fucking DeAndre Hopkins.
On the
Oh,
Titans.
I gotta be closer to the
Who's
mic.
going to
so you
take
can hear
targets?
me.
Trey Burks?
Hey, look. Chigoziem Okonkwo, baby.
Oh, my God.
I will say this though. I think the Jacksonville offense will definitely be better than the Titans.
I think it's going to be a top 10 offense. Jacksonville.
It is going to be a top 10
Hey,
offense, but
I think
who
the
is-
Titans offense is going to be fucking anemic.
Who is
year.
commanding targets on the Titans though, besides Hopkins?
No, but I just think that their offense. I just don't think their offense is going to be that good, to be honest. Like
Their offense wasn't that good when they had AJ Brown.
You have Ryan Tannehill. You have old Derrick Henry's getting old now. He's getting to that point where guys start to break down. I could see their offense being bad this year. And then if Ryan Tannehill has 2 bad games in a row, then Will Levis is probably going in. And then how well is he gonna support DeAndre Hopkins? I actually don't really like DeAndre Hopkins at all. To be honest,
It sounds like
I
me and
think
Mark
you two need to make a
bet.
bet this season. Who finishes higher?
Oh, I wasn't even gonna. Well, I
I think you two should make a bet on Hopkins
what
or
are we
Ridley.
doing?
we can.
I'm taking Hopkins.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm obviously gonna take Ridley on this.
Okay.
On film.
What do they just have to do? They just have to finish higher. That's it. It doesn't matter where they finish. It just has
All
to
right.
be
I'm
higher
gonna
than
say
the
that
other
not
one.
only does DeAndre Hopkins finish higher, but he actually breaks 100 receptions.
Who finishes top 10 this year? We'll go with that as the final.
Well, we can't do that because what if neither
they
finish
both-
top 10?
Yeah, true.
That's the problem.
I guess.
I think they both
just
could.
Because who
Good.
finishes higher?
Yeah, that's duh.
I'm gonna say DeAndre
Yeah.
Hopkins.
Okay, Tim's going Hopkins.
My
you're
answer is
going-
obvious.
Well, yeah.
All right, we're gonna lock that in. And what's the punishment?
Well, we can't do the pie because me and you are already doing that one for my
Yeah, I guess
abysmal Mike Thomas take last
dump
year.
a fucking
The loser jumps into a pool of acid.
death.
Yep. Death.
Death.
You just die.
You just die if you're wrong.
Loser
High stakes.
dies.
Loser dies.
That's the ultimate stake.
All right, so
Why don't we let the people, the 7
Yeah.
people
we
listening,
can
pick?
put a poll up.
Yeah,
Yeah.
put a poll up. Absolutely.
I
We're gonna
think
put
that's a great
fucking poll
idea.
up. I think that's what we're gonna do. So
So the 9 people out there,
yeah,
if you like or hate my take, I hope you all hate it.
I mean,
let us know.
if you're right this year, Mark.
Clearly
you
my-
could fucking
Look,
Pull
I'm
your
not
pants
saying
down.
he's the best receiver in the NFL. I'm just
Are you
saying.
sure?
I'm just saying I like him a lot. That's all. I think he can finish in the top 10. That's all.
I don't know. I think it's getting to the point to where I
I
can
think
ask
he
you,
will.
Because he
what-
has.
I think he will outperform his ADP.
I'm surprised.
Is what I'm trying to say.
This is getting more flack than my Alexander Madison.
Me too. To be honest, like, I didn't mean to.
I don't understand,
Like, I didn't think this was
I don't
gonna be.
understand how you're surprised. The dude hasn't played in a year and a half. His guy was a backup and was still putting up RB1 numbers.
I like Alexander Madison too.
To be fair to Mark and kind of shit on my own thing, like I had to go and pull out fucking numbers. Like it wasn't like in your face. I had to spend some time into it. So.
Nah, but like you did, that was pretty impressive. That breakdown.
Well, thank you. All right. And I'm not saying you're crazy. I just disagree. That's all.
No, and like I want you
think
guys
he
to
could.
disagree with me.
I'm not placing a bet on that final take. I wouldn't place a bet on that.
I wouldn't bet on either one of these things. To be honest, that me and him or that
Who
me
is
and Tim
always
were
right about
betting.
the wide receivers?
However, he does have Tannehill. Like, who knows what that offense is going to be with Tannehill and Hopkins.
knows?
But I think
At this
DeAndre
point,
Hopkins is the best wide receiver Tannehill has ever had.
we might have to do a whole episode on Tennessee at this point.
oh, Jesus Christ.
But I do
However-
agree with what you said about Derrick Henry. That I do agree with.
All right. Well, shit.
Titans episode is incoming.
This turned into a Titans episode.
Titans breakdown is incoming.
So we talked about our 2022 fantasy MVPs, our spicy 2023, and out of all this, we had a bet come out of it. And we're going to find out the stakes for that in the following weeks. And then my dogs are running around fucking crazy, but I love them. And I think we should wrap this up now. I think we had a good run at it.
That was fun,
Yeah.
guys.
That actually gave
That was
me a
fun.
headache.
That was a fun time. Thank you all for listening if you made it to this point. And hi, Libby. And follow us on Twitter, or not Twitter, fucking Threads. We're on Threads now. Instagram, TikTok. The link will be in the description. I already told you in the
TikTok.
fucking beginning, so that's it. That's a wrap. Thank you.